Good day, everyone. Great to see you all here. I'm Rob Tatro from robtatro.com, portfolio manager here at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management and the Tatro Wealth Advisory Group. I'm excited for another edition of the Tatro Show. I will bring in our guest. We'll talk a little bit about his outlook on the real estate. So as a reminder, I am not your investment advisor. Do not take this as investment advice. If you do want investment advice on this, please go to speaktorob.com, www.speaktorob.com. We'd be happy to give you a no obligation consultation. All right, enough about that. Let's bring in our guest. I'll pause no further. I will bring him in. Luciano Diorio, welcome. Great to have you here. Managing Director at Cushman in Wakefield, Québec operations, an expert in his own right, young guy who's done a ton given, I say young guy, you mentioned it yourself, young guy, who's done a ton overseeing a pretty big team out there in the entire Québec regions. He is the Québec operations Managing Director. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to ask you about the real estate. What is happening generally to the real estate market in Montreal right now? And maybe start with office. Is there any activity? There's probably not many deals, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, no. So on the office side, I mean, obviously we've seen things come to a trickle. And I always say that whenever we're looking at office space is governed by a lease most of the time. And a lease has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So somebody who is currently has a lease that's coming up or renewal, they're thinking about their life. They're thinking about how are they going to cater to their employees? How are they going to deal with this pandemic? And so they have an opportunity now to be sitting with their landlord and negotiating their brand new lease. So for those companies, some of them are saying, well, let's put the brakes on for a second. Let's look and see how our workspace is designed. And if we can accommodate this kind of new world of social distancing and how we set up our offices. So that's for clients that have a lease that's up right now and they're in that negotiation. What we're seeing is some of our clients are saying, look, can you go and buy us another 6 months or 12 months renewal and just kind of keep things status quo until we figure out what this pandemic is going to bring. And I think we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to figure out what is going to be the new normal, or are we going to go back to some semblance of a normal? So that's for somebody whose lease is coming up. Somebody's with the middle of their lease, they're saying, well, maybe we need to look at things, and maybe I have too much space, and going forward, either too much space or not enough space. So I'm going to need to take on some temporary space. I've heard some clients looking at the suburban market as an option because suburban buildings typically are not high-rise buildings. So you don't have to deal with the elevator situation of having, social distancing in elevators, because in a low-rise building, people will, either not need to have an elevator cab or use a stairwell. So that's somebody that's in the middle. And then someone at the beginning of the lease, well, they've just signed the lease, so they may tough it out, or they may, again, look at a situation of subleasing their space if they feel they have too much space or not enough space. So it's certainly interesting from the office perspective for sure.
Do you think the values have been impacted let's talk office space in downtown. Do you think resale values or market values of real estate has been negatively impacted by COVID?
I think that right now, because we're in a kind of a wait and see, I think what is somebody who is looking at selling their building will probably wait this out and see how things are going. Value of a building, of course, is dependent on the rents and the income that the building generates. So if you're not paying your rent, then obviously it's going to have an impact on building values. The nice thing about Montreal, and I don't know if some of your listeners can appreciate what's happened in Montreal over the last little while, is we've never really overbuilt. We've never built on spec. Whatever we built a building, especially on an office building, we were building it for a tenant. We were building it for a specific user. So we weren't just building this fancy glass tower and saying, let's build it and they will come. We were really building it with a lease in hand. So again, building value is going to be dependent on the income that it drives. And Montreal, right now, we've up until I always call it like the apocalypse, the run for toilet paper on March 12th was kind of the day when things started to fall apart in Quebec. There was a lot of interest in this city and a lot of interest in buildings and a lot of interest in space.
My city councillor, Matt Allard, conseiller Allard, he's asking the long-term implications are for office space with so many people now choosing to telework. He says, I presume many people and businesses wanting to continue after the COVID-19 emergency and what the implications will be for land value. So first of all, maybe start this question. Do you see, what do you think about teleworking or remote working? And do you think it's going to be something that's here to stay? And then the second part of Matt's question, I'll ask you after.
Sure. So I think that leading up to this pandemic, we had some people transferring to more teleworking and working from home, and a lot, you saw a lot of employers offering that to their employees as a way of giving them flexibility, and also with helping them maybe reduce some of their footprint. I think that there's going to be some companies for sure may want to move towards a platform that's more teleworking, but it's not for everybody, and it's not a one size fits all. I think about just my own circumstances, and it's been 10 or so weeks that we've closed the offices here, and I miss the human contact. And I think not seeing my team and my teammates not seeing me, I think is going to have an impact long term. And so for my particular business, I think that the teleworking thing is probably not going to work long term. I think that we need the human connection. We need the water cooler talk. We need the drinks after work. We need a combination of things. Rob, I think of companies that spend so much money on team building and conferences and kind of like pump up sessions for their employees. I think it'll be difficult if everyone was working from home. So
if you're working from home right now and you're watching the show, or if you run a team that people are working from home and you're watching the show, please, we'd love to hear your comments as to whether or not it's been hard for you to kind of work that team dynamic. I mean, I know for us, there's about 20 people in the office and there's about 10 on my team. And, we do kind of the breakout meetings, and we try to, via Zoom, well, mostly through Zoom and FaceTime, but Zoom, let's say. So we're doing those meetings. We're trying to do like the whole group meetings. We're trying to be as effective as we can. And because we have quite a few people that are still working from home, but you're right. I certainly miss some people, like some people that I don't see anymore. I miss some of my staff, right? And I guess that's what you're saying is there's going to be some of that. Mox, Diego, if you guys are watching, I miss you guys.
Well, and you know what? The other thing too is that we are all working from home right now, and so that's okay. Once some of us are going to start going back to the office, it'll be like when you're not working at head office and you're working at sort of the satellite office, or you're sitting at the kids' table. You're sitting at the kids' table at the party. And you kind of feel like I don't want to be at the kids' table, and that's certainly something to think about. And I'm no psychologist and I'm no sociologist, but I think that human beings are going to be in a situation where those that are working at home are not going to be part of what's going on in the office. They're not going to be celebrating Rob's anniversary tomorrow with him and wishing him and giving him a high five and just wishing you well. I think that there's something to be said about that.